This government will not leave an ordinary person alone for even one day if they fail to pay the electricity bill. However, on the other hand, no matter how much electricity they consume, government ministers only pay 2,000 rupees. I know this. The same was true for us back in the day. It is not for any other reason that the electricity board's losses increase daily.
Meanwhile, the Jathika Helurume says that it strictly opposes the move taken to increase the electricity tariffs. A communique issued by the JHU says that it is the state officials and the policymakers who should be held responsible for the increase of the electricity tariffs and not the poor. The communique adds that although the minimum cost for electricity generation and the usage of hydropower had fallen by 20% last year, it has been estimated that it is likely to increase to 30% this year. It adds that compared to last year, the prices of crude oil and coal had not increased in the world market. The JHU says that as another coal power plant that will generate 300 megawatts will enter the national grid, the use of costly crude oil will reduce. The JHU says that in this backdrop, it cannot approve the increase of electricity tariffs. In its communique, the Jathika Helurume emphasizes that therefore the electricity tariffs need not be amended by not falling victim to the schemes of the policymakers that are attempting to put the government into trouble. The communique further adds that electricity tariffs should not be increased for those who use less than 120 units of electricity per month. Time now for the newspaper cartoon of the day.
Welcome back to the news. UNP parliamentarian Karu Jayasuriya has called on the government to establish the Independent Elections Commission prior to the Northern Provincial Council election if they are not afraid of public opinion. Jayasuriya made this call in a communique issued today in response to an observation made by the President yesterday during a meeting with the heads of media organizations that the framework of the Elections Commissioner is sufficient for the holding of elections.
In his communique, MP Karu Jayasuriya notes that the proposes the establishment of an independent elections commission for a number of reasons, including the instilling of democracy and good governance and to somewhat rein in the powers of the executive presidency. Jayasuriya notes that while the 17th Amendment to the Constitution was passed with a two-thirds majority, it was subsequently abolished through the 18th Amendment, which was passed not with a mandate granted by the people, but with a two-thirds majority secured by bending opposition parliamentarians through various schemes. Jayasuriya also says that it is a well-known fact that the Elections Commissioner at the time requested that he be allowed to resign as he could not bear the stresses of his job. Furthermore, MP Karu Jayasuriya notes that in his communique that allegations that all elections held in the country post 2005 were not free and fair are not baseless.
Today marks 20 years since the assassination of renowned politician Lalit Mudali. Several events were held in remembrance of the late politician.
This commemorative event was held at the Lalit Mudali statue erected next to the harbour access in Hettiawatha, Colombo. Through his knowledge, Lalit Mudali showed the world that he was able to construct a state-of-the-art harbour by making Sri Lanka a hub. But what has happened today? Ports are being built in places where ships cannot even enter. Today a port has been made in Hambantota and that burden has to be shouldered by the Colombo harbour. The Ceylon Electricity Board has become a nuisance to this country. So in the name of late Lalit Mudali, I plead that the same fate not be made on this port as well. Meanwhile, an event organised by the Lalit Mudali Foundation was held at the statue next to Royal College, Colombo. Lalit William Mudali was born on the 26th of November 1936 to Don Daniel Mudali and Srimati Samarasekara. He received his primary and secondary education at Royal College, Colombo and enrolled to Oxford University to receive his higher education. Lalit Athulatmudali, who was a senior state council, represented the Ratmalana electorate in 1977 as a parliamentarian under the J.R. Jayawardena government. He rendered a yeoman's service to the public in his capacities as Minister of Defence, Trade and Naval, Education and Higher Education and other ministerial portfolios. Lalit Athulatmudali was assassinated on the 23rd of April 1993 by an unidentified gunman in Kirlapana. The Mahapolo Scholarship Scheme and the introduction of the Free Trade Zone, which were initiated by late Athulatmudali, benefit millions of people across the island.
The epidemiology unit of the Ministry of Health says that 9,957 suspected dengue cases were reported during the first 3 months of 2013, with 73% being recorded from the Western Province. Director of the Lady Ridgeway Hospital for Children, Dr. Ratnasiri A. Hevage, requests the public to only obtain prescriptions for flu from a qualified medical practitioner. He says that the reason for this is the spread of dengue and other fevers.
If you have a fever, please go to a doctor. Don't take the medicine at home. If fever persists for more than 3 days, please go back to the doctor you have already contacted, or some other qualified doctor. Then he might ask you to get a blood test done. That blood test is what is called full blood count. Full blood count is a very important test by which you can differentiate the dengue, another viral infection, and the bacterial infections.
Up next is Action TV.
People from the settlements of Galapitagala, Gonagella, Gonagala and Singhawatha, which come under the purview of the Ohana Divisional Secretariat, engaged in a protest today blocking the Ampara-Kandy main road for the third time in the past 27 days. Parallel to this demonstration held to protest the failure to provide a permanent resolution to the wild elephant incursions that have plagued the area for the past 4 months, the protesters also brought out the remains of the latest victim of a wild elephant attack in the Galapitagala settlement, which occurred today. The victim, who was a member of the Civil Defence Force, was attacked by a wild elephant while he was returning home following his night watch. Last Sunday too, Action TV carried an expose on the wild elephant threat faced by these 4 settlements, also highlighting the causes for this crisis to arise. While this area did not experience such a threat before, the fact that Wildlife Department officers had to engage in a major operation to drive away a herd of wild elephants which had encroached on human settlements makes the gravity of this issue evident. The operation too was called off early after it claimed the lives of one of those engaged in the operation. Although funds had been allocated for the repair of 125 kilometers of electric fences in the Ampara district parallel to the Datakilda National Development Exhibition this year, what the Department of Wildlife did was to repair 48 kilometers of electric fence, rendering only the Ampara town safe from the threat of wild elephant incursions. Parallel to this repair work, herds of wild elephants which had made the Galoya National Park and the Buddangala Reserve their home were driven away with no clear purpose. The herd, which had lost their natural habitat, were drawn towards paddy fields belonging to the settlements of Galapitagala, Gonagella, Gonagala and Singhawatha on the border with the Batticaloa district prior to encroaching on the settlements themselves. On the 26th of March, the farmers staged a protest saying that they could not reap their harvest as a result of the presence of the wild elephants. A demonstration was staged on the Ampara-Kandy main road against a backdrop where 30 homes in the settlements had been damaged by wild elephants, with protesters bringing the body of the man killed during the operation to drive away the elephants on the 7th of this month onto the road. Action TV pointed out that in the 2 weeks since that demonstration, 20 homes have been damaged by wild elephants. The group which staged today's demonstration held to a stance that they would not disperse until the district secretary provided them with a written promise that the problem would be resolved. While the district secretary refrained from coming here, his written promise was provided by parliamentarian Sarath Veerasekara. When the people rejected the written promise made by the district secretary providing band-aid solutions to their problem, the MP was made to furnish them with a new promise. While the demonstrators dispersed, it was not because the people had agreed to this promise. The promises of instant solutions, as stated in the documents penned by the district secretary and the MP, are to be implemented on Saturday. The instant solution that they are promising is to relocate violent animals in the herd of wild elephants. A clarification made by the Ohana Divisional Secretary goes to show the practicality of this solution.
When new industries are born, it is natural for them to claim more attention. However, the birth of new industries also puts traditional industries at risk. News First correspondent Rahul Samantha filed this report.
This is the Tissa Maharama tank. It supplies all the necessary clay which is needed for the clay industry in this area.
These people residing in Tissa Maharama rely on the clay industry for their livelihoods. However, it is becoming increasingly difficult to earn a substantial income from the industry. They do not have the necessary backdrop to compete with new industries.
Police prohibited us from taking soil from the tank, so we are facing difficulties. Furthermore, we don't have any place to sell our products. We don't get cash immediately. They said that they will provide necessary assistance following the budget, but officials have failed to take any action.
The government has not done anything for the upliftment of this industry. Over 100 families rely on the clay industry in the villages of Yodakandiya, Sandagiriya, Mahavatta and Kambivatta in Tissa Maharama.
Before Parliament was adjourned today, Minister of Health Maithripala Sirisena informed the House that although the draft bill on the national drug policy had been completed in accordance with the Senaka Bibile Commission report, the bill has been misplaced. He made this statement in response to a question raised by UNP parliamentarian Iran Vikramaratne.
When speaking of the purchase of surgical gloves about 3 years ago, you said that there is some kind of mafia. What the Honourable MP is saying is true. The Cabinet has arrived at a decision pertaining to the purchase of surgical gloves from local producers. Nevertheless, we have conducted an investigation into the individual who was involved in the embezzlement and have also filed a charge sheet against him. After the Senaka Bibile Commission report was submitted, Parliament was informed that a draft bill on the national drug policy would be tabled. All necessary preparations were made and the matter was handed over to the Legal Draftsman's Department. In 2011 December, the department told us that the draft bill would be submitted to us next week. However, the head of the department resigned 2 weeks later, and since then, this bill has been missing.
Well, News First U reporter Ganeshan Krishanthan filed this report from Kotagala.
This is the bridge used to travel to the Forest Creek estate located along the Kotagala Nuvarelia road. Because of its dilapidated state, children and adults are severely inconvenienced. For the past 3 years, steps have not been taken to renovate the bridge. The locals request the authorities to renovate this bridge.
News First U reporter Ganeshan Krishanthan.